Do not cut my hand. Okay. Let's see. That, if you can see, has all of like nuts, seeds, all of the good stuff in there for you. Hi everyone. So it is almost mid-autumn festival, which we've talked about before is typically like a harvest type festival around fall time. It's also a date when families reunite, so it's like a reunion type date as well, and they'll hang out together. They'll have mooncakes, so it is officially mooncake season. There's like lantern festivals. There's just like get-togethers. So in general, it's quite a fun, it's quite like a fun time. We've done so many different mooncake recipes in the past, vegan mooncake recipes in the past. Today, I was calling my aunt and I was like, okay, like what else can we do this year? Today we're going to do a 5-seed mooncake, because she was like, you know, your channel it's quite healthy, so I think doing something like this might be nice. So I have like 5 different, you know, seeds, nuts, seeds of your choice that you can put in. You can also put in like dried fruit in the middle as well. This year is really, I feel like for me, a whole food plant-based year, but also a year where I just want to do things simply and easily. I don't want a lot of faff. Now that we've done it a couple times and we've seen how you typically make it, I think I can just make it kind of just from feel and from scratch. So we're gonna make 4 mooncakes, but I think it's gonna be something small because I never really eat all of it. I'm gonna take some oats, and I'll get you all a recipe afterwards. I already blended up some of this. Oats, flax seeds, dates. Just gonna blend this until you get a nice flour mixture. Okay, I am back. There you go. So I think what is nice about putting the flax seeds in as well as the dates is, well, one, you don't really need to go outside and buy date sugar. When you grind up dates with something that's dry, like, you know, like oats or like a particular flour, it grinds up kind of like fine granules already, very much like sugar. So then you don't need to go out and buy date syrup, or you don't need to go out and buy date sugar, which can be really expensive. But the second thing is of adding the flax seeds and the dates is that it will naturally kind of bind up this oat flour as well, so it's much easier that way. We did this technique with the Hidden Love tart shell recipe. I'm going to take a sweet potato, then we're going to mix it into this. And I'm just going to see how much liquid, or like how much of the sweet potato the flour is going to take. If I need, you know, more liquid, I will add that afterwards, just to kind of bring the dough together, okay? But don't add, like if you have a really big sweet potato like I did, you don't need to add all of it right away. This is 2 cups of oat flour, and then I put like 75% of my sweet potato in. So we'll see how that goes, because there's actually a lot of moisture in sweet potato. So I'll say that traditionally with the outside dough, usually what it's made from is either lard or oil, some flour, water, sugar, and then also something called like lye water, like a very basic water. And what that does is it helps with the flavor because it's a little bit like that, like baking soda, pretzel-esque flavor. It also helps with browning, that like really pretty kind of like brown color on the outside of mooncakes. But then it is also supposed to, because it is basic, either something's really acidic or kind of basic, is supposed to help preserve that mooncake so that you can kind of like leave it out and keep the dough longer so that it won't go bad. Okay, so there we go. Okay, there we go. All right, so now we have the dough. So if you used too much sweet potato and it is very wet, like it shouldn't stick to the finger, okay? So if it's very wet, leave it like this and just leave it not covered, okay? It will eventually dry out just a little bit more. You may also find that you need to add in a little bit more, you know, like oat flour or just something to soak up that moisture. But also vice versa, if you're finding that it's like dry and that it's not exactly malleable in the malleable sense, then just feel free to just like sprinkle a little bit of, like, wet your hands, sprinkle a little bit of water on top, and then you'll eventually get something like this. So for mine, I think, I will cover it. We'll just put it on the side. Who knows? Okay, so now let's talk about the filling. I have 5 different nuts and seeds here. I have pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, black sesame seeds, walnuts, and then cashews. You can choose to toast them up first. I think most people like a slightly nutty or slightly roasted flavor. The only ones that I would probably toast would be black sesame, because otherwise I feel like they don't taste like anything. But again, roasting nuts, roasting seeds, increase in that AGE, you know, not always great for your health. So you know, you can feel free to do that. I would probably, for the walnuts and the cashews, I'm just gonna chop them up a little bit so that you're not getting like giant chunks. But in terms of the filling, so this is what we're gonna do. It's gonna be a bean paste. Those who haven't had bean paste before, it is actually amazing and delicious and like super creamy and nice. I think like typically, you know, Western countries, I think, feel like beans are more of a savory thing, but if you add sugar to anything, it becomes something sweet. So you can either use, so we have canned adzuki beans here in the UK, so it's really convenient because I really like adzuki beans. But then you can also use white kidney beans. So I'm gonna use that today because I think, sorry, I'm just draining it. Because I think that that's more of what people might have. I'm gonna take something that is similar to, so white kidney beans. I'm gonna take something that is similar to pretty much a frying pan. The reason is because, oh wait, I'm not supposed to put this in here, hold on. Back into the blender, white kidney beans, dates, water. Just enough to blend it. And I'm actually just gonna stick in a little bit of miso paste. So blend all of that together. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a pan. Why do I want you to get a pan is because you get this blended mixture like this. If you heat this up in a pot, because the whole point is that we're trying to reduce this down into like a thicker paste so that it works for the filling. If you put it into you know, like a smaller pot, this is gonna take forever to thicken up. But if you put it in, you know, kind of like a shallow pan like this, is really quick to thicken up. So medium heat. I don't want to burn it, but like kind of bring it up to a boil. We'll put it on medium heat, and we'll just like scrape the sides for a little bit until it thickens up. And then I'm going to add in my chopped nuts and seeds. So in the original recipes, what they would do is actually they would add a ton of oil into this, and they would kind of like fry the filling, essentially. And then because it was beans or it was some kind of mash, eventually the filling would kind of like absorb up the oil. So it's actually quite tricky because when you taste it, it's not necessarily oily, but there is actually, in an original recipe, there's a lot of oil in this filling. So it's very tricky, but it's also very much not great for you. I don't exactly know when to tell you, because once this cools, it gets even thicker. So I've cooked it for about 5 or 6 minutes like this on medium. So I think, yeah, we'll see. I think at this point it should be quite good. So oh, I ground up the sesame ever so slightly just to release some of that fragrance. So I think this is enough, because once it cools, it's just gonna get so much thicker than this. So I'd say I've been doing this for like 6, maybe 7 minutes on medium. Okay, so that's kind of how it looks now. Okay, so I went ahead and I transferred the filling onto a flat plate like this, because that will be the quickest way getting the surface area to all cool down. So now both of them are cooled. I'm gonna divide this up into, I think I want to do it into 4. So I have these like mooncake molds like this. They're kind of the easiest ones to operate. I'll put a link to this down below, but obviously, like, I am, you know, I love wooden molds. I love collecting wooden molds. Let's look at this. Let's just like look at this together, because it's really pretty. These ones, you kind of have to flour it really well and then pound it out. These ones are probably more easy for you to get, but oh gosh, how pretty does that look? So for me, I'm just gonna take some of the filling and I'm going to divide it up into 4. Okay, so that's just kind of eyeballing it. In the past, what we did before, of course, it's kind of like bakery style, we would divide up each one into the exact size balls. I mean, that totally makes sense, but I don't want to do that this time. So let's just, yeah, that's cool. So there's that. I actually think that there's a fair amount of dough. So again, I'm just gonna eyeball it. You don't need a lot of dough, because the thing is, for mooncakes, it's just supposed to be this like thin layer, like very thin layer. The really like the good stuff is the filling. So let me see. I'll find out kind of more of the exact amounts for you, but I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just guesstimate. I'm gonna have the ball maybe be like half the size of this ball, and then typically what you can do with the like the normal dough is you can get this quite thin, and then you stick the ball in like this, and then you can kind of like nudge it up, because the dough is so it's kind of thin, but it's also like very it's almost like a little bit like a cookie dough, where it's still somewhat wet, and you can just stretch it out. There's just so much fat in it. This one I think we can do, but I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take like a small rolling pin. I'm gonna get this nice and thin, and then we'll just wrap it around this, because I think it'll be much easier. If the dough sticks and tears, you can just piecemeal it back together, because that's how this dough is gonna work. So I just have something like this. Put that in. Let's focus on this. Try to kind of nudge it together. I mean, I guess it's kind of the brilliance of these types of doughs is with gluten-free doughs. You can just kind of, like, it's like Play-Doh. You can just mend and patch anywhere that there are going to be holes. So, okay. So I think the important bit is, because we are going to be putting it into the molds, just make sure that all of the openings and whatnot, everything's patched up. Okay. And if you happen to see like an area where there's more dough than usual, you know, just pinch it off. I usually pinch it off and then I make sure that all of the cracks are crack free. Okay, so really, this is what it ends up looking like. Okay, head follower. Okay, so this is what it ends up looking like at this stage. I mean, honestly, you don't need like a fancy mold. Like if you had like a flour cookie cutter, you could just stick this in, and really gently though, in case it breaks, because it is a different type of dough. And then just have it form that way. I mean, you could even just smack this down a little bit. It could just be like little cake circles and it would be completely fine. So, so I have this one, it has a sunflower on it. What I'm going to do, because I do think that these things still, it has a tendency to stick. And if it sticks, sometimes your entire mooncake is ruined because, you know, like if the top sticks, then everything gets pulled apart and you just spent such a long time making these. So what I typically do is I'm quite generous with dusting it with just like a little bit of rice flour, and then afterwards, if it still looks dusty after it comes out of the mold, I just take like a small brush and I just brush it all off. But I would rather be kind of a little over careful. I'd rather be over dusted than not. So what you do, you take this, gently stick that in. Okay, should look like this, and then that's really pretty. Okay, good look. It's a pretty sunflower. Okay. I'm always thankful that it comes out, so I'm always happy about that. Flour on it this time, but it did stick a bit. There you go. Okay, so after the oven, you are supposed to let these cool and then keep it in like an airtight container for like 2 or 3 days. Originally, it's just supposed to kind of like let the inside oils of the skin come out so that it gets nice and shiny, but in this case, because the I'll open it for you, because the oven does dry out the dough, and I kept this in the refrigerator, this does give the outside kind of skin a chance to absorb the liquid that was inside our filling, so it kind of makes it prettier looking. I actually ended up trying a piece of the baked ones, so you can see after it's baked, it's actually, the outside is a lot more crunchy, which is really nice, and everything is, it's like more condensed, and the flavors are more condensed as well. So it's nutty, it's more aromatic, so I definitely recommend baking it first, and it was so much nicer. Just everything kind of really
came together. And yeah, the crust is just a little bit more like crunchy, which is a nice kind of a difference in juxtaposition against like the inside, which is a little bit softer, but then the nuts on the inside also provide, you know, kind of individual bites of crunch. And surprisingly, even though it was inside, that provided like a really being in the oven actually really helped it a lot. So it was quite nice. You can see all of the nice nuts and pieces in there. It was quite nice.
Yeah, I'm really happy about it. The outside skin, it doesn't taste weird at all. It's not like oh, it's especially oatmeal-y, or oh, it tastes like a sweet potato, because it just tastes like the outside like sweet, like a sweet dough wrapper. I love black sesame, so I like that we crushed a little bit of the black sesame just to release some of its, you know, perfume into the filling, so that was nice. I hope you all enjoy these mooncakes, and yeah, just try making them, mold or not. It'll, you know, it's an experience. All right, cool. Bye.